Picture this. It's late, you're lying in bed, doom scrolling Zillow, and not because you're actively in the market to buy a house, but just because you're curious. And then you see it. Big lot, decent looking house, maybe even a pool, and not a terrible price. Well, not terrible for coastal Southern California anyway. You glance around the place that you're about to fall asleep in and suddenly feels a little tight, a little compressed, like you're always shuffling things and moving things around just to make it work. You squirm a little bit, look at the listing and think, wait, this could actually be doable. And then the dopamine hits. You're in full daydream mode. What it would be like living there, gardening there, maybe chickens or a goat or dogs or whatever version of space lives in your head. You picture raising your kids there or the kids that you hope to have someday, finally having room to breathe, room to grow. And then your brain goes even further because of course it does. You think about your parents getting older, maybe building a little guest house one day. You imagine holidays, long dinners, spending your whole life in this place. And then you scroll just a little bit further and you notice the school ratings. And they're underwhelming. Just low enough to snap you right out of the fantasy. You pause, finger hovering over that Tour Home Now button. Don't ever click that button ever, by the way. I've made a few videos as to why, but I digress. And suddenly you're thinking, maybe this isn't such a good idea. So you close the app and you go to bed. Maybe you think, I could just homeschool as you're drifting off, or you convince yourself that you should stay where you are, even if this other new life feels more affordable, more spacious, more aligned, because better schools. If that sounds familiar, I want to slow this moment down because the way most people use school ratings when they're choosing where to live is deeply misleading. And today I want to show you why using my local market here, Vista Unified School District. If you're new here, hi, I'm Chris Rainwaters, your favorite real estate witch. And yes, a licensed realtor here in Southern California. I help people navigate big life transitions like buying or selling a home with schools, community, and long-term fit included. I'm also a mom of a 5th grader who's been in Vista Unified since kindergarten. I've been really active in the PTA. I sit on district budget conversations and I show up to community meetings. And I want to walk you through why a single number out of 10 does not tell you what you think it tells you. GreatSchools scores are not measuring care, innovation, or whether a district is improving. They're measuring a narrow set of academic metrics that are heavily influenced by poverty levels, language diversity, and aging infrastructure. Now, that doesn't mean those numbers are meaningless, okay? It just means that they're not giving you the full picture. And in Vista Unified's case, that missing context makes all of the difference. So let's talk about what that score on GreatSchools actually represents. GreatSchools ratings are primarily based on standardized test performance and academic progress compared to state averages. In other words, it's a snapshot of how students at a school are performing on state tests and how that performance compares to other schools across California. That means the score is heavily influenced by the student population a school serves, including income levels and language proficiency, because those factors directly affect standardized test outcomes. It's a narrow data point, but it's a real one, and it's worth understanding correctly. So before we talk about whether Vista Unified is improving or not, we need to understand this first. What do standardized test scores actually measure, and how fast do they move? The short answer is that standardized test scores move slowly, especially in districts serving large number of students facing economic hardship or learning English as a second language. Improvements in instruction, programs, and support systems often take years to show up in statewide testing data. Standardized tests are designed to measure how well students perform on a narrow set of academic skills, primarily reading and math, on a specific day compared to state benchmarks. This is what they look like. A third grader in a place where English is not their first language and not the primary language spoken at home excelling at this test would be a monumental feat that we can all one day aspire to for every student with the right amount of programs and care, of course, which we are working towards with dual immersion schools and things like that. But I digress. Back to the video. They are meant to create consistency across schools so policymakers can compare performance at scale. These tests matter because they influence how schools are evaluated, how districts are perceived, and in some cases, how funding and oversight decisions are made. Sites like GreatSchools pull from this data to give families a quick snapshot when they're researching schools. If you're in that research phase and want a broader picture of North County beyond just school scores, I've done a few videos breaking down the area by numbers, lifestyle, and long-term trends. I'll link those below. Anyway, so the scores aren't random and they're not meaningless, but they're only one piece of a much larger puzzle. Now, let's peel back the curtain and talk about what you don't see when you're staring at a single number on a website. When you look at Vista Unified's data on the California school dashboard, a different story starts to emerge. English language arts and math scores are still below the state average. That part is true, but both are improving year over year. English language arts is up 5.7 points. Math is up 4.2 points. That's a lot, and that kind of movement matters in a district serving large numbers of English learners and economically disadvantaged students, because progress under those conditions takes time. Where the gains become unmistakable is the upper grades. Vista Unified's graduation rate is nearly 89% and rising. College and career readiness is over 51% and jumped more than 4 points in a single year. Advanced placement participation has grown dramatically. In just 4 years, the number of AP exams taken increased from about 1,500 to over 2,900. And more than 1,800 of those exams earned qualifying scores. That tells us that students are opting into rigor. They're staying engaged long enough to benefit from it. And this progress is not limited to just one type of student. Growth is being measured across English learners, students with disabilities, and students experiencing homelessness. Kids are finishing school and leaving with real options because the district is intentionally focused on closing the opportunity gap. That means making sure students have access to a quality education, regardless of socioeconomic background, language, or circumstance. That's the part that matters. Our superintendent, Dr. Doyle, is homegrown, and he, as well as so many others here, has dedicated his life to achieving that goal for all of our students. He also happens to be married to my kid's absolute favorite teacher of all time so far. Hi, Mrs. Doyle, or the boss, as Dr. Doyle calls her. Vista Unified serves a very diversified range of families, including many navigating economic hardship, language barriers, or instability. And yet students are graduating, enrolling in college or career pathways, and opting into advanced coursework at increasing rates. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens when a community supports its schools, and schools in turn support their students. This is what gets missed when a district is reduced to a single score. Vista isn't perfect, but it is improving, functional, and deeply rooted in community and the belief that every student has a place here. This is a good place to raise kids, and it's a community that shows up for itself. Now, there is one more piece you need to understand to make sense of everything we just looked at. There is another layer to this conversation, and it has to do with facilities, funding, and how California actually maintains public schools. It's important, but it's also its own topic. So I made a separate video for anyone who wants to go deeper into how school bonds work in California, how Vista has used them, and what that means long-term for families and property owners. I'll link that below. So if you're watching this because you're thinking about moving your family here, This is the part that matters. What Vista Unified reflects is not a perfect district, but a functional, improving one that's supported by its community. It's a district that serves a wide range of families, different income levels, different languages, and different backgrounds. And instead of separating those kids into different systems, it keeps them together and invests in helping them all succeed. That's important because closing the opportunity gap doesn't happen in a vacuum. The way a district responds to challenge tells you a lot about the kind of place that you're moving into. In Vista, when schools face constraints, the response has been to invest thoughtfully, plan long-term, and adapt rather than retreat. That shows up in graduation rates. It shows up in college and career pathways. It shows up in expanding access to advanced coursework and enrichment programs. And it shows up in the fact that people here continue to support their schools, even when the work is slow and unglamorous. If you're choosing where to raise your kids, you're not just choosing a house, you're choosing a community. And don't worry, if you move here, you're not going to be expected to be that parent who's always volunteering. We have plenty of those here. We just want you to know that if you want to be, that kind of parent is wholeheartedly welcome here. So when people ask how schools here get better over time, the answer isn't just one big thing. It's a lot of small, realistic choices made by families who live here. Some parents volunteer, some don't. Some show up to meetings when they can. Some just stay informed. Some support their schools financially when it makes sense for them. Others support them simply by enrolling their kids and staying engaged in their education. All of it counts. Public schools don't improve because everyone does everything. They improve because enough people do something in whatever way fits their life. That's especially true in a district like Vista, where families are juggling work, language barriers, caregiving, and real-world constraints. There's no single right way to participate here. What matters is that support is accessible, flexible, and shared. When I interviewed my son's principal to make this video, I asked her one simple question. If you could send one message to every single person who lives in this community, what would it be? And her answer was this. Well, I'm paraphrasing what was a very beautiful sentiment because I thought that AI was on and it was taking notes, but much to my dismay, they were not turned on. But basically, she said, there's a seat at the table for you in whatever capacity that you can give. You are part of this community and you're welcome here. And that really stuck with me because it kind of takes the pressure off, you know? It reminds us that participation doesn't have to look one specific way. For some families, support looks like joining the PTA or helping with events when their schedule allows. For others, it looks like paying attention when funding decisions come up and making an informed choice when it's time to vote. And for some, it looks like directing resources toward the schools or programs that their kids are a part of. None of those paths are better than the others. They're just different ways of showing up. One of the ways that I personally choose to support our schools is through my real estate business, Coven Real Estate. When I work with buyers or sellers, 20% of my personal earnings goes to a local nonprofit of their choice. For a lot of families, that ends up being a school-related organization, a PTA, a foundation, a program that their child is part of or will be a part of. What I love about this model is that it's like a forward legacy donation. It's a way to invest in the community that you're moving into without having to add more to your schedule, show up to meetings, or take on another commitment. If you're already making a move, that move can also quietly support the place that your family is stepping into. Some families love donating in their name. Others prefer to do it anonymously. Either way, the impact is real. I've had clients donate directly to the school that their child is about to attend. They like the idea of walking into the first day of school already having supported the community that their kid is becoming a part of. It's not the only way to help, of course, but it's an option that lets people contribute meaningfully, align their values, and invest in the future of their neighborhood without having to do anything extra. Well, except work with me, and obviously I am a little extra. If you're watching this because you're trying to decide where to move your family, I know how heavy that decision can feel. You're not just choosing a house, you're choosing a place where your kids will grow, struggle, learn, and figure out who they are. Public schools aren't perfect. Community isn't perfect, but what matters is whether a place is paying attention, adapting, and showing up for its kids. Vista Unified is doing that. It's a district that serves a wide range of families and still manages to support students, no matter their background, in finding their footing, finishing school, and leaving with real options. It's a place where kids are exposed to different kinds of people, different perspectives, and real life. And that's not always easy, but it's how they learn how to belong, how to navigate difference, and how to become active participants in their community. I know this personally. My son is unique, and like a lot of kids, he's had to learn how to find his people, use his intuition, and take up space in a world that doesn't always feel built for him. If he were completely sheltered, he wouldn't be developing those skills. Being a part of a community teaches kids things that no test score ever could. So if you're considering moving and/or having your kid attend a school here, I hope that this gave you a clearer picture of what you're really looking at, not just through numbers and rankings, but through a living, imperfect, supportive community that understands that it takes a village and actually lives that out. And if you do end up here, welcome. There's plenty of room for you. Thank you for watching. And if you watched this because you're actively thinking about relocating, buying, or selling in North County, San Diego, and you want help looking at the full picture, schools, neighborhoods, lifestyle, and long-term fit, you can schedule time with me using the link below. I also have free buyer and seller guides and first-time home buyer resources with deeper market breakdowns linked in the description. And if you want to keep learning about our schools, watch this video right here. I think it's here, right? I did it this time, or is it here? Oh, I don't know. I'll get it one day. See you on the next one, but hopefully sooner.